Well, after a season of setup and revenge, the real story is about to begin. Hey guys, camera for the season finale of Preacher, Season 1, Episode 10, Call and Response, and holy shit, one episode. I mean, there is so much that happened in this episode. I was so looking forward to this episode. Now, was this episode at all what I thought it was going to be? No, I'll say that right off the bat. This was not what I thought it was going to be, but I'm kind of happy that they made some of the decisions they did in this episode, especially towards the end, because this was a really shocking finale, and it was a damn good one as well. By far the best episode of the season, for me at least. I mean, this episode is everything I've loved. I mean, there was so much great stuff in here, and really visually amazing. I mean, just so much great stuff packed into this finale, but let's just get into it. I think they gave so much closure to so much, and really, when you think about it, guys, if you guys didn't like this first season, it essentially is a prologue, because the comic starts where next season is starting, but we'll get into that. Let's just get in this episode. I love the way the episode starts, because it's very strange. We see, and literally the first minute, it just cut to the intro. We see everyone's welcoming God and everything, and throughout the entire episode, there's this countdown that God's going to be arriving at this specific time, and we don't really know what that means or whatever, but we see this man, like, running and greets this woman, but Jesse, we see, he's still on the run this episode, and Tulip is returning to Anvil after her whole confrontation with Carlos. Apparently, she didn't really do anything. She just has him at gunpoint, I guess, and she left him there. And basically, we see the woman, they're lined up around the block to get their hair done for God's arrival on Sunday, and I love the way the women everyone just went all out for God and everything, because, you know, this is God they're talking about, and again, that's something that's just genius about Preacher, is how casual it is, just the coming of God. It's really fun to watch, and Mosey and Phil, and it sounds ridiculous, but it just works in the show, because the show in general is ridiculous, and we see everyone, you know, is really excited about God coming and everything. Jesse's still on the run, and Mosey fills Tulip in on what's transpired since she's been gone, because she has no idea what's going on. She doesn't even think that this is actually happening. She really doesn't think that God's actually going to show up, and I like that we really did see here that Tulip doesn't really believe in God. I mean, as we know, Tulip has been trying to find Jesse all season, trying to get him back on that path, and basically, her big question is, where's Jesse? And she realizes right away that the only person going to get a hold of Jesse is Donnie. But of course, she doesn't know the half of it. She doesn't know what Donnie's become. And this episode definitely does get into that, because Donnie, we see, has just finished reasserting himself at home. We see he's having sex with his wife. They seem to be on good terms. But then Tulip busts through the glass door, brandishing a gun, literally holding him at gunpoint. And I honestly thought she was going to kill Donnie. And what I loved about this episode, one of the things I love the most, is that Tulip, Jesse, and Cassidy, they've been separated for most of the season. By the end of this episode, it really just show that we're done with the separation of these characters. You know, basically, they get back together very quickly. She demands to know where Jesse is, and Jesse just casually walks down. He's like, "Oh, hi, Tulip, how you doing?" I thought that was so funny, the way he just casually greeted her. I really love that, and that, again, is just some of the great humor the show has, just really casual stuff like that. I really did love, thought that was really funny to watch, and also just the really fun gag of Donnie beating his, you know, just hitting his wife on the ass, and then the next scene, just casually sliding peas underneath her ass because probably was in pain. I thought that was really funny. Just stuff like that the show does very well with. So he walks out of the bathroom. We don't really know why he's there. Cassidy, meanwhile, he's in jail. We don't know why he's in jail or what transpired, but he's thinking about Tulip, and Root asks Cassidy where Eugene is, because he feels that Cassidy is responsible for Eugene, which is understandable. I mean, he still doesn't really know where Eugene is, and we know how much he wants to find Eugene, and Cassidy just tells Root that he doesn't want to know, and Root has done some digging on Cassidy and discovered a string of crimes across the country dating back to 1922 at least, and that's why he's after Cassidy. And this is something that I don't really think we knew about, that Cassidy had this long, you know, history of crime throughout his life. I mean, we obviously knew Cassidy's a badass. We know, you know, what he's willing to do to fight for himself. I mean, we've known all of this since that first scene where he killed all those people on that plane. But just to know that Cassidy's done all this, I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised, but I think it's pretty crazy we found this out. And all the digging that Root probably did on Cassidy then charges at Root, but Root shoots him down. Root then pumps some blood out of a thermos and offers it to Cassidy, because as we know, Cassidy needs blood. He isn't really going to be able to live without blood. He needs blood to survive, and I like that we saw that. I thought it was a very interesting relation between Cassidy and Root. These are two characters that haven't really had many scenes together at all. I mean, honestly, I think this is probably the first time these two were actually on screen together. I don't remember Cassidy and Root really having scenes together, but they worked really well together. You can really see that desperation in Root and him wanting to get his son back, and there's a lot of unraveling as well with Root in this episode, and I definitely really did like that. And I think Cassidy and Root are in very similar positions where they both have lost something. Cassidy lost his connection with Tulip. I think he genuinely cared about her, but now, that's kind of gone away, and Root has lost his son, and they both want to find those things. Cassidy wants to find Jesse and Tulip, and Root wants to find Eugene, and I think the way they bonded there, I thought was very well done. I thought it was just really clever the way they did that. I thought that was really good, but then we get to the next scene, which really sets up this episode. So the first half of this episode is primarily focused on Jesse and Tulip's relationship, which is something I really like, because we knew there was a reason why Jesse and Tulip got separated in their childhood, but we don't know how they got separated in their adulthood, and this episode we finally find out why. Donnie tells Tulip that he was merciful on Jesse because Jesse was merciful on him, and that's why he allowed, Jesse to hide in his home, because of Jesse being so merciful. And that's what the whole idea was, that Jesse showed mercy, and that's why. So Tulip then pulls Jesse outside, demands a real explanation, and Jesse apologizes to Tulip, and I like that he actually generally apologized to her. I know a lot of people have said they don't like Jesse as a character, and I kind of do understand that. He is a bit stubborn and things like that, but I really think Jesse really won me over in this episode. I like what they did with him here. He apologized to Tulip. Tulip asked Jesse to do her a favor. And for the first time, Jesse actually complies. He's not just like, no, I gotta do what's best for my church. He actually wants to help her. And Jesse says he'll do anything. Tulip reveals Carlos is in her trunk, tells Jesse that she wants him to kill him. And it's a long stretch for Jesse to do. You don't really know if he's going to do that. You don't really know if Jesse's actually going to kill Carlos, but you can just tell at this point, Jesse actually genuinely wants to help her and actually is willing to comply, and I really did like seeing that, and I like the way they reveal what happens here. Then we cut to this flashback where we finally find out how Carlos wronged Tulip and Jesse so much, because we see Carlos, he's flirting with a postal worker named Jennifer when she turns his offer of a date down, and Tulip and Jesse laugh in his earpiece, because obviously it's very funny to see him get turned down by this woman. Carlos outside of a bank, and Jesse and Tulip are inside tearing open the safety deposit boxes. We basically are to assume they're probably robbing him, most likely, and this, just what I like about this is that we're supposed to root for these two, but they're, again, not the most likable of characters, and I like that we saw that here. Even though they're likable characters, they're not necessarily doing the right things, but they're doing this because that's just who they are, that's their character, and Carlos comes inside, finds them goofing off while they're waiting for the bank's vault to open, and the way they're just jokingly playing around, I mean, that perfectly sums up their relationship. Jesse and Tulip, while those two primarily, I think, do love each other, they're also always gonna fuck around with each other, and they toss in the bags of loot they've gathered so far. Carlos stashes them in the trunk of their gateway vehicle, stepping in a puddle in the process, and he heads back inside. He hears Jesse and Tulip having a good time, decides to cut the bank security guard loose, and basically, we realize, we jump forward to the bank alarms ringing, Jesse having shot the guard in the head, Carlos driving away, Tulip doubled over repeating, the baby, and we don't know who the baby was. We are primarily to assume that Jesse and Tulip had a baby, and most likely Carlos probably, something happened to the baby. We don't know who it was, but something clearly happened to the baby, and it's a really crazy scene, because you see that Carlos, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty where you don't really know if Carlos was working with them or not, or if Carlos, I think that Carlos was pretty much working with them. I think that's pretty much what's going on, is that they probably worked for Carlos. They weren't robbing the bank, but they worked for him in a bank, and clearly they had a baby, and Carlos, when he head back inside, he let the guard loose on them for some reason. I don't know why, but he did, and he let the guard loose, and Jesse shot the guard in the head, basically, and there was a baby of some sort. And it's just really crazy to think that Carlos would do that, but it really makes sense why Tulip is so, eager to enact revenge on Carlos. I mean, something after that, you really can't forgive someone for basically forgetting a baby. I mean, I don't know if Carlos killed the baby, but I think we kind of implied that. And back in the present day, Jesse asks Carlos why, and Carlos tells him it was because they were happy, which Carlos clearly wasn't. And, I mean, it's a very shallow response, but again, it's a motive. It's a motive that he wasn't happy, and he was jealous of their happiness. He couldn't find love, they were in love, and that's why he did what he did, because they were in love and he wasn't. And he was supposed to work with them, he didn't. Jesse then slams the trunk shut, and I love the way he gave him time. Jesse's not just going to kill him right off the bat, because there's so many unanswered questions they have for Carlos, and I like that we saw that in this first half of the episode. So Cassidy drinks the blood Root gave him, heals up from the gunshot wound, and Root reloads and asks Cassidy again about where Eugene is, and Cassidy tells Root that Eugene's alive, but he isn't so sure if that's good news or bad news, because of course he knows where Eugene really is, but Cassidy asks the sheriff if there isn't little part of him that would be happier if Eugene was gone for good, and Cassidy talks about Eugene's face until basically Root unloads his gun in him. And again, this scene I really love, because if you guys remember, we start out the season with Root really resenting Eugene, but again, I think him losing Eugene has really made him realize how much he appreciates his son and how much he really loves his son, how important his son really is to him. I really love that, and I thought that was a really well done scene. Afterward, Root opens the cell door. He tells Cassidy that he's free to go, and I thought it was a very well done scene, because realizing that Cassidy knows this information but also is helping him, he's also realizing that Cassidy definitely is not responsible for this. So I like the way that he let him go. Cassidy most likely is going to meet up with Jesse and Tulip again, and they're going to meet up probably for the commencement of God, and I thought that was a very well done scene. I really did like that, and just little scenes like that with Root realizing that Cassidy, he doesn't really have any information. He's not the person that's responsible. I thought it was a very well done scene. Really did love that. But again, you had some great Cassidy humor in there as well. Just that really great, dry, dark humor that Cassidy's so great at. I really loved. Thought that was really well done. And that's just one of the things I've loved about this entire season is Cassidy's dark humor in very dark situations. So downstairs in the Schneck home, we see Jesse and Tulip are arguing about what to do with Carlos, and I really like seeing Tulip's anger here. I mean, you can clearly tell, I think, in this scene, the baby was most likely hers. The baby that she said, don't worry, the baby, that most likely was her baby, and just seeing her grief, you can really get behind Tulip in this scene, and Ruth Negga just really sold it. She's done an incredible job this entire season, but this scene in general, where she's just unraveling and they don't really know what to do, because at the same time, while Carlos has wronged them, you can kind of understand why he did what he did, that he was angry and he was jealous of their happiness, that he set the guard on them, and we don't know what happened to the baby. I'm assuming the baby was taken to child services, but Jesse says, what about the baby? We'll never see the baby again, so I don't know if the baby died or whatever. I'm pretty sure we're gonna find that out next season, because we still don't know by the end of the season, but I like that. Again, Preacher's always been a show that's just fantastic because of its uncertainty, and that's something that this season's done so well. So Betsy's annoyed they're being so loud, worried that they'll wake up Chris, but Donnie can barely hear them. I love the way that Donnie and Betsy just lent their apartment to them. I thought it was so funny. But Tulip, we can see she wants revenge, but Jesse tries to tell her nothing will break the baby back, and she knows, but she still feels like someone has to pay. It's not like she's just going to get the baby back or anything. The baby clearly is gone, but I do think it means that the baby isn't dead. I'm pretty sure the baby is in child services or something like that, but most likely they're never going to get custody, I think is what Jesse's saying. I don't think the baby died. I mean, maybe I'm stupid. Maybe you guys will tell me, oh, the baby died. What are you talking about? The baby probably died. Well, I don't know. Again, Preacher's such a subtle show, and there's so much, subtlety and just so much mysterious stuff put into it that I don't really know, but basically Jesse goes in the kitchen, he gets a garbage bag and an oven mitt, he picks the gun, and he goes outside saying he's going to hell anyway, most likely, because of course of his power. So he opens the trunk, he puts the bag on Carlos's head, he sticks the gun in the oven mitt and points it at Carlos, but Tulip stops him at the last second, and she's not just going to have him kill him. What they do to Carlos is so much more clever. She hugs him, says that's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for her, but says Jesse is right, that it wouldn't make a difference, and that killing him just wouldn't really do much of anything. I mean, it's not like they're getting something out of this. All that's gonna do is target the police. All it's gonna do is make them a target, and Tulip obviously doesn't want to do that. What they do to Carlos is, I think, much more interesting. He still does almost go through with it, but Tulip takes him down, says it's the thought that counts. They let Carlos out, they untie him, he thanks them, grovels, and apologizes, and you can tell that Carlos is very apologetic. He feels very bad for what he did. He's also deathly terrified of them, which I thought was really funny. So Tulip and Jesse, they just casually hand over a tire iron and the gun, and he removes the jacket, asks Carlos if he's ready, and even though they didn't kill him, he did take a pretty tough beating. I mean, we see in the next scene that he's limping around, which I will say, it was quite bizarre to not see Jesse hurt him, but I think it's more because we know what Jesse's gonna do. We know he's gonna hurt him, so we see him, he's limping through the city with a battered and bruised face, and they didn't kill him, but they definitely hurt him pretty bad, we definitely see. So I thought that was pretty crazy, but that's pretty much the first half of the episode. The rest of this episode is what we've been leading this entire finale up, which of course is the arrival of God, and knowing if God actually is gonna, come, especially for people like King Cannon, who's been so against God and said, that there is no God and that God doesn't exist because of what he did with his family. We're really wondering, are they actually gonna see God here? And Betsy then goes to the church, tells the police station there they can't find Jesse and Tulip at her home, and when the police leave, Betsy takes Jesse, Tulip, and Donnie out of the trunk. You can see they're working together. The four of them then begin cleaning, Ming repairs, preparing for the Sunday service, and Betsy then helps Jesse figure out how to work the angelic phone, because obviously this is the way they're going to contact God. And that's something I love, is that we finally see the way that control room plays a role in here. We'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, she's going to show him how to work the angelic phone. And the congregation that assembles for the service, Jesse tells Tulip that he honestly has no idea what is going to happen. If he's actually going to be able to summon God, or if it's not going to work at all. He really doesn't know. And Tulip says that no matter what, they're getting french fries after, which again, that's such a Tulip thing to say. She walks into the church. The place is packed. Cassie arrives, stands next to Tulip, and the crowd falls silent when Jesse enters. Jesse takes his place behind the podium, and he begins the service, but King Cannon jumps up to interrupt and begins speaking to the congregation. King Cannon makes clear that the only God he worships is the God of meat, reminds everyone that the church is at stake, and as we know, again, he wants to turn the church into a meat packing business, and he reminds everyone the church is at stake, invites Jesse to show God to them, because if he can't see God here, then that's it. He's never going to believe in God, and there's so much on the line in the scene. This is something I loved about this scene, is that there's so much tension going on here. Not only is Jesse, his job is on the line, and his entire passion, everything he's wanted to do this season is on the line, with him wanting to fix the church and everything, but you also have all these people who are very much against him, and if he can prove to them that God exists, he will definitely make everything better. But as we also know, this is very manufactured. Most of the people in the church don't really believe in God. He made them believe in God because of Genesis and everything, but I thought this was just a really well done scene, and really sets up for the big scene where Jesse does pull out the phone. He opens it up, he places the severed angel's hand on it, and he hears something that sounds like a dial-up modem. It was really clever the way it was done. It was kind of like a computer, honestly. And when nothing else happens, he begins tapping buttons, parts haphazardly, and basically ends up Skyping God. I mean, just really clever the way they did that. And King Can stands up to claim victory, but then everything goes dark, like the sun is blotted out, and then there's a bright light from over the podium. God appears right then and there, and I'm like, holy shit, this is actually God. But you can tell right away that just there's something off about this. We'll talk about this in a second. Jesse tells God that they called him because they have questions, and obviously, they have, just so many questions to get through, and God scolds them for daring to question God, and Tulip scolds God until Jesse calms her down. I thought it was just a really funny scene. I love the scene where she's like to Jesse, I told you he was going to be white. I thought that was hilarious, and Jesse then steps in, demands that God acts like the father he claims to be. God laughs and insists and invites their questions, and a woman asks why bad things happen to good people. God says that he wanted humanity to have everything, good and bad, because that's what make them people, and the woman asks for further explanation, but she's interrupted when the entire crowd starts shouting questions over her, and finally King Can steps up, asks to know what happened to his family, and if his daughter is with God. And this is a big question, because as we know, his entire family was killed in that skiing accident, and that's the reason why King Cannon is the man he is today. That's also the reason why King Cannon, he doesn't believe in God or anything like that. So honestly, I really did feel bad for him, and I was really hoping to get that answer, and God says that she is. King Cannon falls back into his seat, and I'm like, holy shit, Jesse might actually win over King Cannon. And God then asks Jesse what his question is. Jesse asks what God's plan is for him, and God says that Jesse is to be a shepherd of his flock, and that by bringing them all to God, he has saved them, even Eugene. And Jesse points out that he sent Eugene to hell using Genesis, and God seems a little confused. And this is where you start to realize there's something really off about God. I mean, God's just not acting like the God that we know. I mean, we know that God knows what Genesis is. I mean, Fior and DeBlanc, they're angels, so they clearly have contacted God. And I'm like, well, where is Fior and DeBlanc? Why aren't they here? And he then moves on to ask if anyone else has a question. Jesse realized that this isn't God, but it is in fact an imposter, and God tries to cover it up. He becomes very agitated and frustrated, and God turns on the light to show them, to intimidate them into belief. And finally, Jesse demands an answer using Genesis, and the imposter admits that no one knows where God is. God is actually missing. And that, my friends, is the setup for the comic book. I heard that the comic book starts direct. That is the plot of the comic book, that it is them trying to find God. It is them going on this quest, and that is the plot there. So I knew that was eventually going to come up, but it's just so genius. The fact that God's missing and that the Almighty is missing. God tries to explain to himself to someone off screen. He's pulled away, and the feed is ended. So there's so much going on here. I mean, everyone's just realized that the man they thought was God is an imposter, and that there is no God. And this is followed this incredible scene. Jesse steps in front of the congregation. He begins walking out of the church with Tulip and Cassidy, and, basically he says, we're out of here because Tulip wants french fries. He's going to get out of there because he knows what's going to start, but also because he made that promise to Tulip. And King Can demands that Jesse denounce God, but Jesse just keeps walking, and that just shows how Jesse is the bigger man, how he's the more mature man. He's not going to just give in to King Can anymore. He's not going to go to war because the battle's over. The battle's been fought, and, he knows that he kind of won. He tells Cassie they're going to get french fries, and after the congregation leaves, King Can and the others, they just tear the entire church apart, and it's insane to watch. I mean, people are just, breaking the, glass windows and things like that. I mean, it's crazy to watch, really, but you can totally understand why things end up the way they do. And we then do this really sad scene where we see Emily's with her children. She's trying to tell them nothing has changed and that their father is still in heaven. She tells them that they don't need God, and they never did. Even though they had all these questions, she really feels that they never really needed God. And we then see some very brief scenes like the old school mascot. He ends up hanging himself, which we saw him throughout the entire episode. He ends up hanging himself. The group of little girls, they murder the pedophile bus driver. Terry Loach suffocates Tracy Loach while her son takes a selfie. And it's mainly because no one has that faith in God anymore, because of the fact that they can't pray to God because they feel there is no God. So they're not going to, pray. They can't pray, and they have no faith in Jesse because there is no God. They feel he's a fraud. And that makes perfect sense. King Can then creates a meat replica of his daughter. He cradles it. King Can, I think, is on the verge of insanity right now, mainly because he was believing Jesse. I think he really gave in to him. He kind of thought that his daughter might actually be with God, but now realizing that there was no God and that he really was right all along, he's kind of gone a bit insane. And we then see the alarm on the pressure valve goes off. We see that control room again, and we finally see what the point of this is. The man watching it has died, we realize, so there's nothing they can do. Gas begins seeping all over Anvil. A cigarette near a valve causes a spark. There's a massive explosion, wipes away the entire church. Church is just gone. Literally, the entire church, it wipes away, and the church we've seen since episode 1 is destroyed. And that really sets up the story for season 2. I absolutely love that. I love the risk that it took. And I don't know if you guys just realized, they just killed off most of the main cast. They just did. Emily's dead. Donnie's dead. Most of the main cast just died, and it's pretty crazy, but they did. They just killed most of the main cast. King Cannon's dead. But of course, we do still have 3 main characters, and they're going to be our story, I think, for the rest of the show, pretty much. So then we get to pretty much set up for season 2. The last 5 minutes here are just incredible. I love the way this episode ended. The distant Vistus bus returns. It drops off Fior, and I'm like, oh shit, finally we're going to see what happens here, because we know, obviously, Fior and DeBlanc made a deal with the cowboy, but we don't know if the cowboy gave in. I was surprised by the lack of the cowboy in this episode, but I'm honestly glad by the way the events play out at the very end. So Jesse, Tulip, and Cassie, they're in a diner discussing the Big Lebowski, and I love it throws goes all the way back to second episode. As we know, Cassie hates the Big Lebowski, and I love the scene where Tulip's like, raise your hand if you love the Big Lebowski. Everyone raises their hand. Jesse says the plan is to go find God, and when he finds God, he'll either help him or kick his ass, and he sees Eugene again as well, promises to find a way to get him out of hell, and again, you realize that that's one of the things he's going to try to do. He's going to go try to find Eugene, so that's one of the things he's going to do there. Outside, Tulip then asks Jesse what Genesis is, and because she doesn't fully understand it, and we realize that she didn't know Genesis, and I like that she didn't know it, but then he uses Genesis to get Tulip to kiss him, and Cassie looks at them bitterly as they kiss. When the kiss is over, Tulip then punches Jesse, tells him to never do it again, and I love that. I love seeing that. I love the power that Tulip has over them. They pile in Tulip's car, they drive, and I absolutely love that. These three are going to go on a road trip. They're going to go try to find God. That pretty much is set up for season 2, but that's not the end of the episode. We see the Archangel walks through the wreckage and ashes of Anvil. It is the Seraphim, as we see the Seraphim's right there. I was surprised by the lack of Seraphim as well, but the cowboy, then we see someone shoots her from behind. It's none other than the cowboy. He walks over her body. He then just casually speaks the word preacher, and that is how the season ends. Incredible stuff overall. Absolutely love that ending, but let's just get into this episode and then the season overall. So, holy shit, I mean, so much happened in this finale. The fact, like I said, they killed off most of the main cast. I'm assuming at least they killed most of the main cast. I mean, that gas wiped out pretty much the entire town, except for the diner. I mean, that's like, seems to be the only thing that's left. Everything else is kind of gone. I mean, we didn't see Emily after. We didn't see Donnie after. I'm assuming that they died. I'm assuming that they're dead, because I don't believe they're in the comics, so I'm assuming that those characters are dead, but I don't know. But like I said, guys, this really... Season 1 was a setup of, for Season 2, really. It seems like Season 2, this is going to be our main story. The story in the comic, that's what they really need to do. And I understand that people thought this was slow or whatever, but it was meant to be a prologue. They wanted to do this because, comics and TV are two very different mediums. You can start a comic anywhere, really, and you'd be fine. I mean, a comic, you don't really need to read the other issues to get this one unless you just, start randomly. So you can start anywhere. But I like they didn't start this in media res. I thought, that's what they were going to do here, but they didn't start it there. So having this prologue and kind of getting us into the backstory and getting us into the characters, I thought was very well done until we set up what's going to be for next season, because next season is going to be incredible. I can't wait for Season 2. Jesse, Tulip, and Cassie going on this road trip. I can't wait to see what's going on there. There seems to be a bit of tension between the three, though, because you can tell that Cassidy, he does clearly still have feelings for Tulip. You definitely do see that, and these two definitely seem like they are going to clash a little bit. But Tulip, I don't know, she really feels the same for Cassidy. It seems like Jesse and Tulip are together now, but as we know, she did smack him at the end, so I think that was kind of funny. As far as the cowboy, how is he going to get to Jesse? That standoff between those two, I cannot wait till those two share a scene together. It took so long for Jesse, Tulip, and Cassie to share a scene together that I really hope it doesn't take as long for Cowboy and Jesse to have that confrontation. I think it's going to be awesome to watch. I can't wait to see the way that goes down. That's going to be incredible. I know next season they said it's going to be longer. I'm assuming 16 episodes because most shows on, AMC are shows like this at least. As far as Fior and DeBlanc, I definitely am looking forward to seeing the way that's going to go, the way that that whole showdown goes down between Fior and DeBlanc. I can't wait to see the way that all turns out. If they're going to get to Jesse, if they're going to get Genesis back. Obviously, he's not going to give them back Genesis, but most likely, I'm assuming, we'll have to see what happens there. What happened to Tulip and Jesse's son? Is that going to be discussed again? I mean, obviously we know something happened to the baby. We don't really know what happened to the baby, but we'll have to see. Maybe we'll find out next season. But again, I think most of the town is dead. I think King Cannon's dead. Most of them are dead. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think they are. If I'm wrong, guys, just let me know, but I'm pretty sure most of them died. But overall, guys, I absolutely love this season. I thought this really was an incredible season overall. I really did like most of Season 1. My only real complaint, I'd say, with Season 1 is that it was slow. It was a very slow show, and I did kind of want them to pick up a pace a little bit. But I think that was kind of the point. It was supposed to be an extended prologue. It worked in that regard, especially towards the end. I think the last half definitely was better than the first half. First half was a little bit slow. Second half, I think it really did pick up. Things really got great in the second half. I really did love it overall. But overall, I'm definitely going to give Preacher Season 1 a 4.5 out of 5 or an A-. I really did enjoy the season overall. I thought it was a very solid start. I can't wait to see the way Season 2 goes down, except for an incredible showdown and an incredible road trip for Season 2. Also incredibly funny. This entire season I thought was so funny. I can't wait to see the way things go down in Season 2, and really sets up for the story that Season 2 is really going to set up, and as well as the beginning of the show. And really, guys, that's it for this season. I mean, there's really nothing else to talk about. I absolutely love this season. I think definitely Season 2 is definitely going to be better. I think we definitely are going to see that. Not the season was bad. Like I said, I just gave the season the grade I did, and the reason I did is because of the great characters and the great moments they had there. But is Jesse, and are they going to find God? Is he going to get Eugene out of hell? I mean, we don't really know. But this is the setup for the rest of the show, guys. That's what the rest of the show is going to be like. I can't wait to see the way that goes down. But let me know what you guys thought of this season. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I really did love the season overall. Thought it was very well done, especially as a good setup. What'd you think of this finale? I absolutely loved it. Probably best episode of season for me. There was so much packed into here, and I absolutely loved it. Do you think most of the cast is dead? I'm pretty sure most of them died. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. We'll see you end the season overall. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Brain Dead. I know I've been very behind with that show, but I am going to catch up to the last 3 episodes, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.